Kanish Chugh from ETF Securities. Welcome to the Equities and Growth Assets Symposium.
Drew, thank you for having me.
Could you explain some of the benefits that thematic investments can provide to traditional portfolio construction?
Definitely. So today we've talked about, we've heard a lot of speakers talk about trying to generate alpha in what is a really tough environment. The start of Q2, we've got geopolitical risk, rising inflation, this rising interest rate environment as well. So where do I look to get my alpha? Now, traditional markets are going to potentially experience some downturn. So thematics can really provide investors an ability to generate some alpha. Now, they target specific themes, megatrends, and it's really important we sort of highlight megatrends specifically. These are long-term thematics. And I think that's what thematics and the thematic ETFs in Australia, they're all targeting broad megatrends. And a megatrend, for anyone that wants to know, it's essentially, in my view, something that has a long, disruptive, innovative trend, but it's also got government support. If it's got government support, it means it's going to get corporate support, and it means it will be long-term.
And what are some of the benefits of ETFs specifically for adding those tactical allocations?
So what we've seen is, if I was to try to access thematics, how would I traditionally have done them? Well, I could go to an active manager, whether it be a growth, a value, a concentrated large cap manager, for example, a small cap manager, but I'm not targeting a specific theme. So what ETFs have done essentially is democratize this idea of investing. They've opened up choice, they've opened up access for investors and advisors. So if you want to target a theme around, say, semiconductors, hydrogen, battery technology, fintech and blockchain, you now have the ETFs available in Australia to give you those specific themes to overweight and tilt towards.
And how are you seeing advisors use these ETFs on a short-term or long-term view?
It's been interesting because we've launched some of these themes. Now we're probably one of the leading providers of thematic ETFs in Australia, and we've had the thematic ETFs for about 5 years now, but we've seen a bit of an evolution. Advisors at the moment are starting to now look to thematics within their models. Previously, they were a bit skeptical, there's concern, and there still are, by the way. Speaking to advisors today at the Symposium, we're still answering questions around, well, how do I allocate to a theme? Is it too niche? What we tend to talk to them about is, well, if you've got your concentrated global growth manager, you've got your value manager, but you really believe in the thematic on battery tech, you really believe in the thematic on semiconductors for whatever reason, well, the ETF allows you to provide a satellite exposure. So we're seeing investors at the moment, they're allocating them to them in a long-term view. So they're as satellites, but they're timing their entry into the market. So they're using this current pullback in the equity markets to buy into the dip and to start to build up their portfolio and their allocations.
And where have you seen the most capital flows in, say, 2021 and this year?
So in 2021, probably one of the leaders for us in our range was our battery tech ETF ACDC. So that looks at battery tech and lithium mining. Now that ETF generated over 400 million of inflows. In 2022, about 40% of our inflows have been into our gold ETF. Now that's off the back of rising inflation concerns and this concerns around the geopolitical events in the Ukraine and Russia and potentially China as well. But we've also seen nearly 20% into ACDC, so our battery tech, so people are buying the dip. So there's been a really strong pullback in that particular portfolio from a performance perspective. We've also seen some interest in our FANG ETF. So our FANG ETF is essentially a concentrated global growth fund, and that's had over 10% of our total flows have been into that FANG ETF. So again, that's a core allocation that advisors are looking to.
With inflation coming back and value investing's come back into favour, are there any ways that people are gaining exposure to that thematic via you?
It's an interesting question because when we think of thematics, we just associate that with growth. So we associate, biotech is a growth thematic. That's really clear. You're talking about companies that are not profitable. But what about the robotics and automation ETF of Robo? That thematic has a lot of cyclical exposure. So that can tilt itself for investors that want that value orientation. What about ACDC? It's got a number of car manufacturers in there. Yes, they're revolutionizing and they're moving towards electric vehicles, but they're still operating on the value fundamentals from a stock basis. So they are a value tilt. Yes, the theme is growth and it generally gets impacted in the short term around the noise on rising rates. But when you look deep down, and we're talking today in the symposium about lifting up the hood, really understanding what are you investing in, you actually find some of these themes have this value tilt within them. And another one I'd probably say is our tech ETF, and purely because to me, tech sector is not a growth sector. It's on the current PE levels. When you look at the tech sector, it's actually trading relatively low compared to its historic highs. It's not trading at the highs of the dot-com bubble, for example. And that particular index has a value screen already inbuilt into the index. So you're getting stocks chosen by Morningstar, by the way, that are fairly valued or undervalued. So again, there are 3 value potential tilts using thematic ETFs.
And what does the future hold for ETF securities?
Well, at ETF Securities, we're all about the intelligent alternative. And so we're looking at trying to bring alternative solutions, ETFs that are not currently available to clients or investors, or ETFs that may be available to certain themes or sectors or region exposures, but can they be done better? And the other side of it is we're trying to be innovative. So we're looking at things like crypto. We're hoping to be the first crypto ETF provider in Australia with a physical or digital Bitcoin, I should say, and a digital Ethereum. And we're also looking to broaden out our asset class exposures as well in equities, fixed income, etc.
Kanish Chugh, thank you.
Thank you, Drew.